Leadership is always a very difficult career, but political leadership is even more difficult, especially when you want to balance your role as a politician and your role as a leader. One man who finds himself in this very hot seat is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. He has always maintained that they were elected together with the President William Samoei Ruto, and that his role is to assist the president realize the agendas that they give the people, the promises, and he says that that is his main role. But at the same time, Rigathi Gachagua wants to balance between being the president's principal assistant and being the pro-people politician, one who is fighting for their rights. Most of the rights that he wants to fight for are being agitated by the government itself. Now, recently, there have been demolitions of structures and houses that were constructed on riparian land. And there seems to be a convergence point that most of the owners of the houses and structures in the riparian land are people from Mount Kenya. And you know that Rigathi Gachagua has always maintained that he is the principal spokesperson of the Mount Kenya fraternity. You go to the streets to demonstrate, he tells you you want to collapse their businesses. But one man has just realized that Rigathi Gachagua is not talking about the demolitions on riparian land. And I don't know whether it is true, because I want you to listen to the Gorogosho Member of Parliament. I think this guy is called Matapei, chiding Rigathi Gachagua, chiding Mount Kenya leaders whom he accuses of keeping mum when things are going wrong, because he believes this is the time for the leaders to speak and take a stand against the demolitions. Kindly take a look.
Kando ya mto, na nimepata simu kutoka kwa kijana mmoja anaitwa John Kamau, ambaye aliniambia mali imefika Matakwei lazima utuongelele, kwa sababu wale jamii ya Wakikuyu wameruka, Wakikuyu hawaongei na manyumba zinabomolewa. Na wakaniambia niseme namna hii: wewe Kindiki, wewe ni Mkikuyu, lakini umechukua usukani ya kubomoa magorofa za watu na kubomoa manyumba za watu. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niambie serikali hii ya Aslas, mulisema kuna demolition itafanyika hapa Nairobi, lakini ile mambo tumeona in the last 2 weeks, mpaka sasa kuna watu ambao wako nje. Ya pili, niambie Gachagua, wewe sasa kazi yako ni kuzunguka na kwanza kusema one man one shilling, ili Wakikuyu unabomolewa mamilioni ya pesa ya manyumba, na wewe unaanza kuangalia mambo, sijui mnabishana na Oscar Sudi ati sijui protocol ni gani, sijui nani ndio nani. Kwa hivyo jamii ya Wakikuyu wamenituma ni represent, kwa sababu wanaumia. Wanasema serikali ambayo walichagua ya William Samoei Ruto leo imewageuka, hawana mtetezi hata mmoja. Na wakaniambia niseme namna hii: hii mto haijaanza Mathare, hii mto haijaanza Korogosho, hii mto imeanza na huko. Lakini ukiangalia zile mabuilding ambaye ziko kwa riparian land, ukienda sijui huko Karen, sijui wapi, sijui Modai, kuna manyumba zimetengenezwa karibu na mto. Mbona mubomoi hizo? So I want to appeal to this government. Wakikuyu wanasema hakuna mtetezi ambaye anawatetea tangu nyumba zianze kubomolewa. Hakuna Mkikuyu ambaye amesimama akasema this thing is bad. Wacha serikali kwanza ikatisha hii maneno, tuzungumze tuone mambo itakuwaje. Si tukatai ndio watu wanapelekwa na mto, lakini mungianza na mali mto inaanzia. Huwezi kuja kwanza kubomolea wale maaslas ambayo kwa mnasema ati mama mboga, sijui serikali hii ni ya kanisa. Hadi ukiangalia makanisa zimebomolewa saa hizi. You cannot imagine. So I want to tell Gachagua na Kithure Kindiki, Wakikuyu wamesema nyinyi kwanza ni bure, nyinyi ni useless, na waezi waheshimu tena, because you cannot demolish a multi-million of houses in this capital city of Nairobi ati because of riparian land. Na kama ni kubomoa, si mwende mwanza kubomoa zile za Modhaika, ama mto imeanzia Mathare. Hii mto itaanzia Mathare. Hii mto kuna mahali imeanzia. Tunaona wamejenga mpaka kando ya mto, wameka mpaka fence za mawe. Enda kuanza kubomoa hizo, ndio tujue serikali inafanya kazi. Kwa hivyo jamii ya Wakikuyu wamesema wanaumia, hawana mtu wa kuongelelea. Mimi nikaamua leo wacha niongelelea jamii ya Wakikuyu, kwa sababu wale Wakikuyu walipatiwa power, sasa wamechanganyikiwa, wanaanza kuongea mambo ya 2027 na sasa tuko 2024. Usually unaanza kuongea mambo ya Gachagua, unaanza kuongea mambo ya sijui Ainaki, mnaanza kubishana na Oscar Sudi, na Wakikuyu wanabomolewa na Nairobi.
Well, this was happening, and as the Gorogosho MP came out very openly and was criticizing the government for these demolitions, it turns out that the reason why Rigathi Gachagua is quiet is because of this letter here that I want to read to you. It turns out that the docket that is handling the Nairobi River and its environs falls directly under Rigathi Gachagua. And William Ruto, whether by default or by choice, had seen it and ensured that he placed all this under Rigathi Gachagua's docket. And I want us to read this letter that has really betrayed Rigathi Gachagua, and that as much as he tries to play innocent, he cannot. This is the letter. His Excellency the Deputy President meeting with elected leaders, government agencies and other stakeholders on Nairobi Rivers Action Plan implementation. And it says the Executive Order number 2 of 2023 on the reorganization of the government of the Republic of Kenya placed the Nairobi Rivers Commission as an institution under the office of the Deputy President. This is intended to stimulate a more focused approach on the management of the Nairobi River Basin. It is noteworthy that collaboration with all stakeholders along the Nairobi River Basin and their leadership is imperative to achieve a coordinated strategy for the management of the basin. This is geared towards achieving the shared goal of reclaiming the rivers of Nairobi as a spine to the city's blue and green infrastructure for a better urban environment and quality of life. In order to achieve this mandate, the Commission has identified a number of activities to be undertaken as part of the generation and rehabilitation exercise. The Commission has developed an action plan identifying thematic areas such as management of waste to rivers, that is solid and liquid, riparian mapping, catchment protection and drainage, hydrology for storm water storage. These are critical for preparing the river basin for sustainable socio-economic development. The purpose of this letter is to invite you to a meeting scheduled by His Excellency the Deputy President on Tuesday, 23rd April 2024 at the DP's residence, Karen, at 9 a.m. to chart a common front in the implementation of the Nairobi River Commission Action Plan. Wanjiku Wakogi, CBS Chief of Staff. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, whether Gachagua can exonerate himself on this, because people have been making a lot of noise that the government is demolishing structures, and most of those who are suffering are Rigathi Gachagua's, and those who are suffering are Rigathi Gachagua's tribesmen. And Rigathi Gachagua had an action plan. He invited people, stakeholders, to come because in the penultimate paragraph it is said that there is what we call solid waste management to the river, that is solid and liquid, riparian mapping. We are talking of riparian land here. There was catchment protection and drainage, stroke hydrology for stormwater storage. And these are critical for preparing the river basin for sustainable socioeconomic development. So all these demolitions fall under Rigathi Gachagua. And he finds himself in a very precarious position. How he can come out and negate this role that was placed in his docket is the one who is championing it. Because there have been these discussions that under the constitution, there is no clear role of a deputy president. It is said that he will assist the president and will always take action as instructed by the president. And so he was given this. It is another poisoned chalice. And Rigathi Gachagua finds himself in a very precarious situation. And I've also realized that it is not only in the demolition of the structures in Nairobi where Rigathi Gachagua finds himself in a very precarious situation. Recently, Rigathi Gachagua championed the fight against alcoholism and drug abuse. And he was very passionate. And I remember, together with his wife Dorcas, they said that for a long time, alcohol has run havoc on youths in Mount Kenya, to an extent that he was telling us that some of them have been rendered impotent. And he was saying that he wants them to give them more youths. He wants them to continue the lineage of the sons and daughters of Mumbi. When he was doing this recently, the counties in the coast and counties in northeastern, if I'm not wrong, have decided that they are also fighting for their people, and they have burnt Moguka. This is a plant that is a cash crop in Embu. Embu is part of Mount Kenya, and Rigathi Gachagua has been fighting for Mount Kenya. And Rigathi Gachagua finds himself now between a rock and a hard place because he wants to fight for the people of Embu, but he does not know how to approach it because they are telling him, just the same way you are fighting alcoholism, that is the same way we are fighting Moguka. And I want you to see what Eden Duale is saying here. Eden Duale is from Northeastern, because this is becoming very interesting for Rigathi Gachagua. This is what Eden Duale is saying, that the fight against drug and substance abuse calls for a collective whole of society approach as we fight the production, distribution, and consumption of illicit brew. With the same emphasis, we must combat other substances, Muguka included. Eden Duale is a cabinet secretary in defense. They sit together with Rigathi Gachagua. And so they have given a warning. They're fighting Muguka, and Rigathi Gachagua does not know, do I fight for my people? And if I fight for them on Muguka, how do I approach it? Because when I was fighting alcoholism and drug abuse, I was very passionate about it. So he finds himself yet in a very difficult situation because other leaders have ganged against him. And many experts believe that this might have emanated when Rigathi Gachagua began yet another very heated, very precarious, and a very, what I may call, very dangerous debate about one man, one shilling, one vote. And when he joined the proponents of Limuru 3 on supporting one man, one shilling, one vote, I remember certain leaders, people like Danson Mungatana, criticized Rigathi Gachagua that you want to be a national leader, but you're now talking about one man, one shilling, one vote, yet this is going to be very difficult and not pocket friendly to certain quarters of this country, because they were also saying that they want, I don't know, one kilometer, one shilling, one vote. They wanted this to be based on the geographical area rather than the population. And most people who are going to be affected were some of the areas from the coast and northeastern. And so when they came about fighting Muguka, some people thought that it was a rebuttal on Rigathis way of playing his politics. And so another one that puts him in a very difficult situation is the one man, one shilling, one vote. He wants to be a national leader. At the same time, he wants to convince the Mount Kenya fraternity that I'm fighting for you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Rigathi Gachagua is a man who is fighting very many battles. He does not know which one. And if you look at the way things are moving, the Nairobi River project was placed in his docket. The fighting cartels in the tea and pyrethrum industry and all this was placed in his docket. Rigathi Gachagua was so passionate about alcoholism and drug and substance abuse that William Ruto was forced to convene a cabinet meeting that ratified the fight against these drugs. But now it is backfiring on him because they have placed the ball on his court, and Rigathi Gachagua does not know what to do. I don't know what you think about Rigathi Gachagua. I don't know. Did he really pick his battles carefully? And do you think William Ruto saw this coming, and that's why he decided to place all this in his docket? Being a leader is very difficult, but it is even more difficult if you want to aspire to be a political leader, because leadership and politics is very difficult to balance. And that's my take.